Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
I'm kind of interested, though, how this is all scored. So joining us now from Conduit for Commerce, Brenda Vassaur Taylor is on the line. Brenda, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And I know everybody is dying to know just kind of the scoring methods here. So what can you tell us about that?
Well, as the opening paragraphs mention, we are affiliated with Conduit for Action, like-minded organizations, and we followed what they had recommended to the legislators during the special session, during the general regular session that was January, and then the special session that followed at the middle of May. But we had, Conduit for Action had sent out recommendations to the legislators about the bills and recommending a specific way to vote. And based on those bills, taking the ones that we felt were had the most impact across the state, and certainly all of them had to qualify, or they wouldn't have been on the scorecard initially, to reflect the economic freedom filter that Conduit for Commerce has adhered to, and really is our cornerstone of our organization as far as our principles, what we work toward, and that is for a better, freer people in the state to enjoy their freedom, enjoy their prosperity, and for everyone to prosper, not just a few.
Yeah.
And Conduit for Commerce thinks that using the economic freedom filter test, which is, do bills grow government? Does it grow dependency on government? Does it spend money we don't have? If a bill does those things, we know how to vote. If you are fiscally conservative, want smaller government, limited government, and more freedom for the people.
And we've talked about before how economic freedom, because that's really what we're talking about here, is a prerequisite to all other freedoms. And, an ever-expanding government, makes it harder on small business in Arkansas. And, that's also worth mentioning, right? I mean, that's the focus here as well.
Well, as we, all of this, as we score these votes, look at it every day in the paper, we hear some of these legislators saying they're not going to run, or they are going to run, or maybe they've decided to run for the Senate, who are a House member or whatever. And they'll give a position about why they should be elected or reelected. And what we want to give the listeners and the people that look at our material, we want to be able to help them score actions and not words. I mean, words are easy, and now that we basically have Republicans across the board, the races are going to take place in the primaries now. And, how do you tell one Republican from another? Well, we have tried to create a scenario under this scoring system where we've looked at things from various angles, looked at these bills. I mean, we have the bills posted where some legislators may say, foul, we don't like those bills, you left mine off. Well, certainly we tried to only use the bills that fit our focus and our policies.
Or don't pass so many bills. Yeah. I mean, it's very clear. You guys are scoring. It's hard. It's very difficult for any organization to keep up with the fast pace of the Arkansas legislature, and so you guys did a great job of hitting, getting these bills. I know Josh Waters did a great job, trying to figure out which bills kind of conform to this idea of economic freedom, and you guys posted them every week. I mean, on the program, I interviewed Josh, and Josh talked about, hey, these are the bills for the week, and this is our score. This is a good bill. This is a bad bill. So it's it's out of all of that work where we now interpret the results, the actions, as you just said, of what these legislators did. And I mean, it is what it is, right? I mean, can you tell us a little bit about how you weighted the scoring and how you weighted each bill?
Yes, we first of all, just trying to look at how to make sure that we gave every legislator, every vote, benefit of the doubt. Maybe if we could look at things from a different angle, they might have a higher or a lower score. And so first we just said, okay, let's take every vote the legislators made and let's compare it to how we recommended they vote. And so just a 1-to-1 ratio. Now, we did throw out it did not include the committee votes on this because obviously all the legislators are not on the same committee. So excluding the committee votes, only considering the floor votes, We said, how many legislators, what's the percentage of times that they voted with conduit for action? And so we got a number, 5 times, 75 times, whatever that is. We took that score, all right? So ever how many votes, like, for example, there were 30 votes and they voted with us every time, they got 30. Unfortunately, I don't think there was a single legislator who voted with us every time. All right, so that was 1/3 or one piece of the score. Another way that we looked at those bills, the same set of bills, all bills aren't created equal. One that might say if you repair air conditioning systems, you have to go to school. That's not the same thing as passing a sales tax on all Internet purchases. So to me and to our organization, the bill that would pass a new sales tax on Internet sales purchases is a different impact on our state's economy than requiring more school for an air conditioner repair person. So there was a different impact.
So both can be bad. Both you can oppose both, but they're going to affect the people in a more general way, and then one in a more specific way. So the one that's more general, affects more people, has more impact, right? In the negative.
That's right.
Okay.
And then there was a middle section, three levels of impact. The second section might be like, for example, the military income tax exemption bill. Well, that's a big deal. That impacts the entire state, and that would logically be in the top category. But that bill also included language, there may have been an income tax exemption in it, but it also had income tax increases. And, for example, BLR has come out with a report to show, yes, this is a revenue generation, to use one of your terms, a revenue generation bill. It generates more money than we lose. It's a net gain, and I remember hearing one of the legislators thinking that maybe it did that. And when I just read the articles from what our local newspapers would put out about it, it looked like a revenue-generating bill to me.
Yeah.
So knowing that bill had two sides to it, a positive from our perspective is to reduce the income tax on military retirees, but also when you raise taxes and even raise them beyond the net neutral, or you've got to have a neutral tax cut, or you're not, quote, conservative, according to now some politicians. Mm-hmm. But we certainly don't think that bill, because it includes that other negative, what we would consider negative impact, is now as important of a bill as it would have been without that. And there were several of those. For example, the tort reform bill would come into that type category. It has some good and some bad. Therefore, it's not as impactful. Or we didn't class it with the weight that we would have won under the first category.
I've talked to many times about a lot of these guys were in tough positions, and that military retiree right off the bat, that was the tough position that the leadership put them in. If you don't want to raise taxes in these other places, or create, for example, a digital downloads tax to try to help pay for the $13 million hit to the budget, then you're against the troops. Then you're against the veterans, but then they're like, well, no, I'm actually I'm against raising taxes, but I love the troops, and so that played a part in it as well, right? I mean, these difficult
right.
situations.
But there were some bills, for example, the Medicaid disclosure bill. Now, remember, the Senate passed that bill. That was won by Brian King. And it never made it out of the committee for the House, but it got several committee votes. So when you look at Brian's score, and now realize when we did these scores, we had no idea, how it would turn out, what these numbers would turn out. I know that some people have accused us of having favorites. Some have accused us of being single-issued. Some have accused us, if you don't do things our way, then you're either 100% with us or we're not with you at all. And I think this scorecard would diminish that, anyone who really understood where it was coming from. But Medicaid Medicaid disclosure bill, for example, says if a provider of Medicaid does business with for example, a elected House or Senator, then the provider has to disclose that information if it's $2,000 or more dollars a year, or something like that. I've forgotten now the exact number. But, that seems pretty straightforward bill. You disclose that. Let's get that passed so that we'll know who's doing business with Medicaid providers. Well, that could not get out of the committee 4 different times. And so we scored those guys that voted no, it can't get out of committee, or yes, we want it out of committee. I remember having a conversation with what some people would consider a very liberal Democrat, and I really appreciated the fact that he wanted that bill passed. And but then again, one of the more conservative Republican House members did not. And so we just want people to understand votes have consequences, and words need to be measured against actions. So as we really refined these, when you have so many numbers varying from 265 to a negative 207, I mean that's a lot of ranges. But the third way that we scored these votes, we took every single vote and we weighted. We gave a weight to the vote based on, does it grow government? Does it grow dependency on government? Does it spend money we don't have? And then we weighted those. And, of course, does it disclose? Transparency is another issue that covers all of these. It's very important. How can you know if you're spending too much money or don't if you don't know what these legislators are doing?
Yeah.
So transparency is one that's sort of the foundation of everything. So any bill related to transparency, you'll see the FOIA bill included. That was part of what we wanted to score.
Okay. All right. We're talking with Brenda Vassaur Taylor from Conduit for Commerce. It's conduitforcommerce.org if you want to check it out. And you guys, first of all, Joe, can you get the score? Can you put the website back up there for us? Because I want to ask Brenda a question for the folks who are listening. But to recap, the way you scored this, okay? Did you vote the way that Conduit was scoring on the week-to-week basis? That's the first way you scored it. That was worth some points. Number two is the impact factor, because all bills are not created equal. More continued education for an air conditioner versus supporting the internet sales tax are two totally different things in the way they're going to affect the population. Then number three, if the bill you voted for or against did all three of the economic freedom filter, does it grow government, does it increase dependency on government, does it spend money we don't have? Those were the three criteria. I just want to rehash that for the audience that are listening, or more specifically, Brenda.
And transparency. And it was added to that, transparency.
And transparency. I just want to rehash that for all of the legislators who are listening to this, because that's exactly what's going on right now. The third, the next question that I want to ask you, and I made this observation a little earlier. Go ahead and scroll up to the Senate side of this, Joe, because I noticed something. I was talking about primaries, Brenda, and the governor seemed to support certain individuals in the primary in 2016, and those individuals got elected. Senator Jane English, Eddie Joe Williams, Senator Lance Eads, and I noticed that their scores are some of the worst. They're on the results of this scorecard. Do you want to respond to that in any way?
Yeah, I was very surprised when I saw the governors, senators, if you will, Lance Eads, Eddie Joe Williams, and Jane English, that their scores were so low. It certainly, if I were seeing that, I was one of these guys, I would go, oh, yeah, of course they're going to score low because one of their organizations, we beat them in a primary. Well, really, that's what's so nice about the level at which we went into refining our scoring. We had no idea who was going to turn out where. But when our governor says, I'm going to be involved in primaries because I want my policies implemented, when I looked at that, I saw, wow, it's not just Paul Scho that thinks his policies are right there in the middle of the progressives. That's where his senators land. And, Lance Eads is a Chambers of Commerce guy. He's not just our governor's pick. And so we want to be conscious of the fact that Arkansas's economic engine is truly small business. It's not big business. Big business is in Little Rock doing what big business should do. If we all had the money, we'd all be down there defending our positions. And, I mean, that's what capitalism or, free economy does. We can't all afford to be there like, Dan Douglas supporting Walmart or whatever, and Lance Eads supporting Chambers of Commerce. But when you look at these scoring and you see how people vote, you can really see the policy. So that's what's really important, is to understand what votes we scored, what bills we scored, look at how these guys voted. And now, I just kind of had a terrible thought as you went after, mentioning that, if our governor is still bent on maintaining the same policies that he, worked so hard to support in March of 2016, then I would predict that the guys at the top of our list might be going, "Oh no, are we going to end up being Josh Miller?" And the governor bring us a primary candidate. But this can be used, I hope, among the grassroots. If they understand the bills, they're going to understand, easily how we score them, and we'll have a conversation with anyone who wants to talk about this.
Yeah.
When you say favorites, I mean, gosh, look where Larry Teague, he did pretty well. He's the top
Democrat. Look at that. Yeah, he's the top Democrat. The first Democrat on the list, number 16, versus the governor's nephew, Jeremy Hutchinson, at 32 on the rankings.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy.
And look at Jimmy Gazaway on the House. He's number 43. I mean, Jimmy, what the heck? And, I had a conversation with him this week. He's probably somebody that, we certainly supported him before. Did he disappoint us? I have probably, to most people's surprise, a lot of conversations. I mean, there are a lot of Democrats. There are a lot of people who are lower on the list than I wish they were, that we do work with and we enjoy working with. So Conduit is, certainly can proudly say we have a reputation. I don't know how much of it is that accurate, but we do hope this scorecard will be used in trying to figure out what we're about.
Well, I mean, again, we're talking to Brenda Vassaur Taylor from conduitforcommerce.org. This new scorecard coming out. You said something, I guess, a little while ago, but noticing how low Jane English, Lance Eads, Eddie Joe Williams are in this list. But then you said, referencing something I've said about progressive policies, amongst the progressives, and and when you actually look at that, when you look at the D's there, the few D's that are remaining in the Senate, and you see folks like Jeremy Hutchinson, Lance Eads, Eddie Joe Williams, and Jane English, she's kind of got some Republican insulation there of Jake Files and John Cooper, yippee. But it really is they're blending in with people who are diehard progressives when you do the scoring of does it grow government, does it increase dependency on government, does it spend money we don't have. These are the results you get. I think this is some of the most valuable information in the entire state. I hope everybody uses it as a resource. And Brenda Vassaur Taylor, I appreciate you coming on. I'll give you the last word.
Thank you, Paul. I do hope that people will use these in primaries. I mean, primaries is where it's at. If you don't like where your legislator is on this list, you might have a conversation. And then use this information to educate. Remember, it is fiscally or focused toward the economy, money, keeping more money in your pocket and government having less. Thank you, Paul.
All righty. Brenda, thank you very much. Be safe, folks. We're going to take a break. The Liberty Machine rolls on. We're going to be back in just a moment.